We're now on the Kainalu Elementary campus, and I want to talk a little bit more about green waste. Somebody donated these big vessels as worm bins, but they really weren't going to work as worm bins, and they were kind of awkward and heavy, and anyway, they were too heavy to move, so they decided to just keep them here. And I decided, because they were a vessel, I would turn them into green waste. So we put a lot of pukas on the bottom and put a lot of pukas on the top, and I've been filling them for the last few years with green waste, garden waste, grass trimmings, leaves, prunings of all kinds, and boy, they work really great. And I just keep, every week I load up and I water, and it keeps going down, and at the end we have some pretty nice compost. Come close, I'll show you. So this is the stuff that's been breaking down, and if I go down deep enough, look at, this is the compost we're getting out of there. Pretty nice. Now this is, again, may not be garden quality, but it's certainly fine. Whoop, there's even a little wormy in there. It's certainly fine for landscape and lawn. So these, any kind of in-vessel compost will work for your green waste. So anything you have. I mean, I'll use any container. Just put pukas on the bottom, elevate it so it can drain, and pukas around so that it can be aerated. So that's my green waste pile. And I also use it for my rejects, because often I have food that for one reason or another I don't want to put in the worm bin, or I don't want to put into the hot compost piles, or whatever. So this week they had trays and trays and trays of muffins that they were going to throw out, and sweet rolls. So Miss Brenda's wonderful, wonderful cinnamon rolls. She had 6 trays of this stuff, and she was going to throw it all out. I said, oh my God, Miss Brenda, don't throw it out. I know some bugs that would really enjoy your cinnamon rolls. So she said, oh, take all of them. So I did. I took all of them, and I didn't really want to put them in the compost pile, and I didn't want to put them in the worm bin. That's kind of too much sweet stuff. So the green waste bin, okay, I'm going to sneak them in my green waste bin, and that's just fine. So I threw them in there, watered them down, and you can see they're already getting kind of moldy. Now I'm going to cover them up with some more green waste, and I noticed they took out the tomatoes from the garden, so this was a really nice tomato plant green waste cover. So I put that on top of the food just to cover it up, and more on this side. Cover everything with green waste. So muffins covered with green waste. And the next ingredient, of course, is what? You're right, water. Let me grab the hose. Here we go. I'm gonna water everything down really good. Make sure I've covered all my muffins and cinnamon rolls. Get everything drenched, drenched, drenched. And I have some old burlap bags that I like to put on top of this. If you can get a hold of burlap, it's great. I often use it as a cover. It's kind of hard to get these days because of the coffee berry borer. The Department of Ag no longer allows us to pick up surplus coffee bags, but I had a bunch hanging around, and I use them up. Eventually they'll get eaten up, but they kind of make a nice cover for my green waste pile. Optional, you don't have to go digging up burlap. It's hard to get now anyway. But anyhow, I'm going to set mine up with a nice cover of burlap on top of everything, and let all of my decomposer organisms get to work. What a treat. They get Miss Brenda's legendary muffins and phenomenal, phenomenal cinnamon rolls. Too bad we can't feed them to people. But unfortunately, the DOE does not allow us to share any surplus food with humans. It's a shame. There could be people who would really enjoy those muffins and cinnamon rolls, but instead I'm giving them to bugs. But it's better than the dumpster. So eat up, buggies. You just got a great meal of breakfast pastries. And I just turned rubbish into resource, because they're going to make some very nice compost out of this stuff. Okay, that's my little green waste receptacle here at Kainaloel, and we'll close it up, and we're done. Let's look at some more green waste. Here we go. We're still here on the Kainalu campus, and I want to show you our big green waste operation that we do for this campus. It's a huge campus, lots and lots of foliage, lots and lots of grass, trees, bananas, big garden, everything. So they generate quite a bit of green waste. This is what I get in a week, folks. This is a week's worth. Oh yeah, and don't forget those over there, Augusto. So they will fill up lots and lots and lots of containers and bring me loads and loads and loads of green waste every week. Joy, the head custodian here, estimates that she fills it, before we came, she filled the dumpster over 100 times a year with green waste. So we're looking at 100 dumpster loads of green waste a year that used to go into the dumpster. Now it comes over here to a corner in the campus, and we use our green waste technology to break it down into soil. So you see, I got a lot of work every week. And what I do is I come to my big pile here, which is just a big pile of green waste under a tarp. So I will take all the stuff they give me and put it back up on there. I'll do another layer and put a sprinkler on it, let that go for a couple hours, and really, really drench the pile so it's very wet. I try and keep this pile nice and wet, cover it up. It'll sink down about 6 inches every week. I put the next batch on, sinks down, the next batch. I get probably 2 dumpster loads a week for this pile, and we go from June 1 to June 1. So we started this pile of June 1 of 2020, and in June 1 of 2021, we'll start another pile. So let's take a look at the pile we did June 2019 to June 2020, and I'll show you what it looks like in its resting stage. So here it is. This is actively being filled with layers and layers and layers of grass and trimmings and clippings and branches and whatever they have. Gets wet every week and cooks down in the sun. And after a year, it looks pretty much like this. This is from last year, from June 2019 to June 2020. So this year in June, we stopped feeding this one, which used to be as big as the one we're working on now. And in that amount of time, it's sunk down quite a bit. I also will continue to water this about once a week. So I put a sprinkler on, let it go for a while, hose it down, you know, make sure it stays wet, because once again, if you're not adding water, it's just a rubbish heap, it's not a composting operation. So again, water is the key. So let's look at what this looks like after a few months. We can see that it's certainly shrunk down. Let's see what's happening to the materials underneath. So it still looks like the grasses and stuff, but I don't have to dig down too far before I find out what's happening to all my green waste. So I'm turning it back into soil. So by June of this year, it will be, or next year, 2021, this is going to be just a little lump of that, kind of a medium grade compost, which can be used to spread around the yard, to use in landscaping. But you know what we do here, just because we have so much of the really good stuff, we just let the grass grow over it once it's just a little lump of soil. We let the grass grow over it, and when it's time to switch on that June 1st date, this becomes the site for our next pile. So I've been going from side to side every year, switching locations, and I'm able to take care of this massive amount of green waste on this little campus in a piece of property that's 30 feet by 20. That's it. So I feel like I get a lot accomplished here by composting all of their green waste rather than putting it in the dumpster. And economically, it's a really smart thing to do, because every time they do this with the dumpster, you know, they pick it up and dump it in their truck, that costs you, the taxpayer, mom and dad, $200. So let's do the math, everybody. If you have 100 dumpster loads in a year and it's costing $200 every time they dump it, how much are we spending every year on picking up and transporting our green waste? One campus. Did you do the math? It's $20,000 a year, one campus, to pick up the green waste. I say, boy, that's really dumb. Dumb economically. Dumb environmentally for sure, because there's a big carbon footprint involved in processing and all that, but really dumb economically because it probably costs a fraction of that money for this tarp, a few bricks to hold it down, a couple hours of water a week, and a little bit of my time. I spend about 45 minutes a week on my green waste piles. So for a fraction of the cost, we are composting, we are breaking down on campus all the green waste in this big school. So it saves money, it saves environmental degradation, and it adds fertility to the soil. So I don't have a lot of control on how the school spends their money and the school district spends their money, but you certainly have control over what you do in your household. So if you wanted to do some green waste composting, either in a vessel of any kind, a rubbish can, a commercial composter, or just anything you put pukas in, or you want to just emulate what I'm doing here with just on the ground, just dump your green waste. You can sneak in your surplus worm food or reject worm food in there too, cover it up with green waste. You can layer it that way. You can put your green waste and your excess food in a little pile on the ground, water it every week, give it some time to break down, and in the end, this is what you get. So you can do this at home and increase the fertility of your soil by adding all this lovely organic material to it. Don't put it in the rubbish cans, you guys. Don't put it in the green waste. I know some of the big stuff, the trees and big branches, you got to, but for the smaller stuff you can handle, make a little green waste pile. I really love green waste piles. They kind of get all my junk, you know, all my rejects, all my excess, and they break down and make beautiful, beautiful compost. And people say, gee, do you have trouble with rats and bugs and all that? Well, bugs are doing the work, but they're pretty much staying in there. And I've never seen a rat here. There's just not that much that interests them. And because we're going in every week and watering them, you know, they're not going to hang around and make a nest in there. It's just too inconvenient. So anyhow, that's our green waste at Kainalu. We're really proud of it. We've been doing this for years, and they don't ever put green waste in their dumpster, not anymore. We keep our resource on campus, and we save money, and we build soil. So you do it too. Try it in your yard. Good luck.